What is going on, fight fans? My name is Jake Littman, and I'm here with the Behind the Cage Door podcast today with another very special guest, Laird Anderson. How's it going, Laird?
Pretty good, man. How you doing?
It's a great day to have a great day. A little rough back in my hometown. Lamar Jackson's probably no longer with us, but we live, we learn, we move on to another day.
Always better things coming.
Oh yeah, always. And that's what we're just working to, no matter what it is, to get better each day. And so I'm excited to have Laird on the podcast. He's getting better every single day. 4-0, done all four of those fights in Bellator. So he's been competing at the highest level. Really, really good grappler. Comes from a very distinguished family of combat sports veterans. So it's really exciting to have you on the podcast. And I can't wait to pick your brain a little bit.
I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. I'm excited to chat and just, tell you a little bit about my story and
Absolutely.
my career.
Absolutely. And it's only been a couple fights, but it's going to be a long storied career. And so let's start with the real core of it. I know you're a big family oriented man. Your family really helped you get into the sport. So you want to just tap in a little bit about, how your family has helped support you and how they got you to the point where you're at now?
Yeah, of course. Well, it all started with my dad. He always looked to become. He was obsessed with martial arts when he was in his teenage years, and his dad, my grandpa, was a professional boxer. He had about 3 or 4 professional boxing matches, maybe even 6. So he saw that, but he actually never learned martial arts. My grandpa never taught him anything, so he kind of like went to seek it out. He wrestled a little bit in college, and then after that, he wanted more. So he went to Japan. He looked for martial arts there. He wanted to train karate and whatnot, and then soon after he found jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So he moved to Brazil. He heard about the Gracie family, started training with them, and then that's kind of what changed his life and changed everything for him as a martial artist. So after meeting the Gracie family, he moved with them to Torrance, California, when they opened their school there, and he was instructing and training and competing for them. Soon after, he fought in UFC 22. So it's always just, we've always had that background. My dad fought, and as soon as my brother and I were capable, he put us into competition as well. Jiu-jitsu, wrestling, all of it, boxing. So that's pretty much, I have to thank him, for putting us in there.
Absolutely. And your brother Elias, he's a jiu-jitsu world champion. Definitely someone good to roll around with and keep fresh. And I'm assuming between him, your father, and everybody that you've worked with in your career, they played a huge part in you getting to where you are now.
Yeah, undoubtedly they played the biggest part. Elias and my dad, they taught me everything I know. The person I am and the reason I'm the martial artist I am is because of them. Yeah, Elias is the best training partner you can have. A world champ at his caliber is just, no one gets me nervous to roll like rolling with my brother. No one's that hard, no one's that crazy, no one's that skilled. So it's incredible to have him in my corner and have him as a training partner day in and day out. There's no one that could push me better than him.
For sure. And I'm sure that keeps you fresh. But another thing that keeps you fresh is I have a dog myself. I know you've got a nice little puppy. I'm sure that keeps you fresh. And I know he's a member of your team as well. I know it goes a little bit more than that. Do you want to introduce us to your dog?
Yeah, I could actually bring him out right now. Here, I just put him back inside. But Boji, come here. Come here, Bubba. Here he is right here. This is him. He's a kisser. He's a cuddler. But yeah, he's my right hand man. We go everywhere together, do everything together. So yeah, this is Boji. He's the one you see in the pictures all the time. He's the man. He's such a good dog. He's got his things, but overall he's great. And he's only 14 months old. He's still still a bit of a puppy.
That's crazy. Mine's actually almost 13 months. So that's pretty
Oh
crazy.
wow. Yeah.
And he's also the same color, that blue merle, that black and white and gray, that real cool color.
Yeah. No, it's a special relationship to have with him and just a companion. He's there for me. He's always like super intuitive when it comes to things. When I'm cutting weight and he's right there, he's always laying by my side whenever I'm in the tub or when I'm wrapped up in those towels and the weight's coming off. He's very like intuitive to those things. He's like, he understands me emotionally. So it's awesome to have him.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. A man's best friend is always the dog. And so if you want to see some more pictures of Poggi and Laird, definitely go check out his Instagram. It's at Laird Anderson, correct?
Yeah, at Laird Anderson, two N's at the end.
Two ends, not one. Make sure you remember that. Check him out. There's a lot of really adorable pictures out there. I know those Bellator photo shoots, they've been taking some extra time to get him involved. And really, that's really made him a bigger part of your process, which is really cool to me.
Oh yeah, the photographer Lucas Noonan, he's an awesome dude. We kind of have like connections through mutual friends and whatnot, but just he's rad. He's super accepting of it. He was kind of the one that pushed for it in the beginning. I had Boji there for the fight week, but he came to the photo shoots with me, and then he was like, "You should get one with a dog in there." And I was like, "You know what? You're right. I totally should." So credit to Lucas Noonan for that one. He's awesome.
Absolutely. And so that gets us right into the fighting. I think one thing that's really interesting to me about your career is that you've always been with Bellator, a big scale promotion, but your
Yeah.
first fight was a split decision win back in 2018, and then you took about 3.5 years off. So you want
Yeah.
to talk a little bit about that and that little break that you had in between? I know you were competing in grappling and jiu-jitsu,
Mhm.
but that's a pretty large amount of time to stop in MMA.
Yeah, yeah. There was a lot of factors involved in that kind of time off. It was just about a little over 3 years, but yeah, I think the biggest factor for me was just evolving. I had no right after that fight, I was very eager. I wanted to get back into the cage. I wanted to fight. I wanted to prove that I was better than what I shown. But as time went on and the fights weren't really offered as quickly as I'd expected, um, then my mindset switched a little bit and I more started focusing on just evolving. I was like, I was very young when I fought for the first time. I think I was 20 years old. So um, when I had that, I wasn't as experienced or as knowledgeable in the martial arts realm. So just taking that time off and accepting it and knowing like, hey, I'm doing right now is getting better and better as a martial artist and evolving as a fighter, cerebrally, physically, evolving as a man, and that's gonna take my game to another level. So eventually I accepted it and I'm glad I took that time off because it really helped propel me and my confidence in the cage. So helped a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in that time, I know I mentioned that you grappled into some jujitsu and stuff. You fought Cade Rotolo, you fought a lot of big names in that world. How do you think that those experiences in that time off kind of helped you evolve and get to the next step?
Yeah, training with competing against those guys, like the highest level guys, it shows shows where you're at, but at the same time, like I didn't actually start coming into like my own until I went to AK. When I first started training at AK, that's when everything kind of started to just come together for me and click. Who I wanted to be as a fighter, what style I wanted to use, how I could exploit my best attributes, and yeah, some of those matches that I had in jiu-jitsu were almost like the confidence in myself wasn't there. And no, not taking credit away from any one of those guys. They're incredible athletes and jiu-jitsu practitioners. So um, I was just glad to be able to compete with them. But once I got to AK, my confidence built and skyrocketed, and I kind of realized where I could be in the sport.
Absolutely. And so ever since those couple years off, you rattled off 3 finish wins.
Mm-hmm.
What do you credit to that transformation of that first fight being a split decision, a hard fought win, and then coming out there and really being dominant?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people to credit it to, but I think the biggest thing was that my mindset changed. I for a long time I never felt like it always felt like, okay, I'm here, but I didn't entirely feel like, okay, I'm the fucking man, you know. That's kind of what changed, you know. I started really believing in who I was as a fighter and what I was able to do, and in the years and years before it, you know, all the years and experience I had, I put that in my head and I said, you've done this over and over and over. You've been here, you've competed since you were a kid, you've grappled, you've boxed, you've wrestled. Use that and build confidence with that. So I did. And once that changed, and also, you know, like I said, being at AK, when I was able to train with those UFC fighters, those Bellator fighters, the high level guys, and kind of like put in perspective where I was at, it helped a lot, you know. It helped a lot. So just the confidence building and the mindset change is what I accredit to, you know, those finishes and the career change as far as my fights in Bellator went. And of course my brother and everyone else that's been a part of my journey, my girlfriend Tina Linsmut, they've all kind of helped build that as well.
Absolutely. And so I know it doesn't just take one person, and you've drawn from all your backgrounds from your family, aka have you worked anywhere else? Have you really cross trained with a lot of other people that kind of made you maybe accelerate your learning and that confidence growth?
Yeah, well, I mean, I recently moved out to Dallas, and I did my last training camp. This last fight, I did all my whole training camp in Fortis at Fortis MMA in Dallas. So, you know, all those guys were so welcoming to me, and um, yeah, it was a great atmosphere. You know, the other fighters there, Abdul Kareem El Sawadi, he's the Fury FC lightweight champion, and I'm sure he'll make his run in the UFC very soon. Austin Lingo, Trevin Jones, uh, Kyle Crutchmer, obviously, he's the one who brought me out there. He was at AK, and then he moved to Fortis. Kyle Crutchmer, Nick Piccinini, all these guys that train there, they're just a huge help when it came to that camp. So yeah, training at Fortis MMA was awesome, and it helped a lot.
Absolutely. And are we staying at Fortis in Dallas for a little while?
No, actually, I'm gonna be um I'm gonna be transitioning back to just training the way I started, you know, and that's just with family around me, you know, with my brother, with my dad, with my girlfriend, with just all the family. You know, I my dad has been involved in martial arts since the beginning, since the UFC was even a thing. So it's to not utilize him, you know, I need that. I need to utilize him. He's as good a brain as any high level MMA coach I've ever been with. And so utilizing that and utilizing my brother consistently, you know, as a as competition together and to build each other up and to pick each other's minds. You know, he understands even more so in the technical jiu-jitsu aspect side of things than I do. So using them, and yeah, that's how I started, and that's kind of how I want to finish this journey, is with them by my side. So we're gonna do that.
Absolutely. And a long journey to continue with. And so one thing, I know your family, a lot of jujitsu background. What's your kind of like your primary focus when you're in these camps? Are you really focusing on that grappling, or do you focus more on the stand-up, or do you really look for a little bit of everything?
It depends, you know. My dad likes a variety of everything, but more tailored to the specific opponent. Like for this fight against Rogelio, against Luna, it was the training camp was tailored towards defense. You know, I always put my grappling and my wrestling at the top. You know, and I want to continue to grow that and continue to make it better, because I feel like that's where I'm already such a huge step ahead of a lot of people. So if I could just continue making that stronger, better, I'm gonna keep that gap between me and my competitors. And while that's happening, I'm still evolving with the striking. But yeah, with this fight, it was more tailored to defense. So my defense as far as standing on the feet goes, moving the head, using my parries, setting things up so that he can't fire back. being quick on the feet, moving. Everything was tailored towards that. Defense is such an important thing. I feel like a high focus for a lot of these athletes, and my dad always tells me this is a high focus. Is you see them hitting mitts, you see them hitting the pads, but how often are they taking an hour out of their time to just focus on the defense, focus on the head movement, focus on the parries, focus on the blocks, the rolls, everything, So that was a big focus for this camp.
Oh yeah. And so in the end, it paid off. Looking back on that fight, obviously you finished him. Where do you see some things that you want to improve on?
Everywhere, everywhere. There's constant improvement, But I want to improve in my wrestling. The biggest thing I want to improve on, and I felt like I definitely did this camp, is just the confidence standing up. I feel like I showed that in the fight too. I'm always going to take an opportunity to grapple because that's where I'm best. If the opportunity presents itself, which it did, I'm not going to let it go because I want to prove anything or because I want to strike with this person or that person. I wanted to get to where I was best at, which is grappling, and then I also wanted to show people where I was with the striking. And there's only a few exchanges thrown in that fight, but I think I still showed that I'm pretty high level there as well.
Absolutely. So obviously in the long term, you want to have the best career that you possibly can, achieve that goal. But in the short term, what are you really looking for in your next couple fights?
I want to fight people that have a little more of a reputable name, and guys that I want people to start doubting what I can do. I want to feel that going into a fight where it's like, okay, this guy's really tough or really good, or he's had this many fights. Let's see how Laird does against him, right? And I want to do the exact same thing. I want to finish the guys that people think are going to be harder fights for me, and I want to make it look just as easy as every other fight. So that's the biggest thing, is just move forward, grab tougher guys, get the competition better and better each time, and keep doing what I'm doing and finishing quick and putting on really, really high level performances.
Absolutely. And in the deep featherweight division, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of different opportunities that are going to come up for great matchups, but also ways for you to impress and continue to elevate yourself to that level that we're talking about getting you to. And so for you, really, what do you think is going to be the key to getting those bigger names and getting those more reputable people that you're mentioning?
I think it's just putting my voice out there. I think they'll get me the names if I want the names, and I think the art in the cage speaks for itself. What I've been doing, what I've shown against people. The first guy I fought back in 4 years had 9 more professional fights than me. Granted, he had a losing record, but still 9 more professional fights. It's a lot of experience, so showing what I can do to these guys with more experience than me, undefeated records, and just, I think that speaks for itself, and I think that shows where I'm at and where I can be at. So I think getting those next level opponents won't be hard.
Absolutely. And so for you, you said get your voice out there. Is there anybody that you're looking at?
No, not currently. Not currently. I there was a lot of this training camp was probably the toughest training camp so far. I walked out to that song, No Easy Way Out. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Walked out to the song No Easy Way Out from Rocky IV. And that was all because that was the theme of the camp. There was no easy way, no easy route taken that camp. All the hard things, all the hardest shit you could do, that's what we did. There was no oh, let's do this because it's a little smarter. We don't have to go to. No, we didn't skip any of the hard stuff. All the hardest, most grueling, the stuff that'll break you mentally, break you physically. That's the stuff we did, and that's the stuff we wanted to do. So, with that being said, there was a lot of hardship throughout the camp. So right now I'm just focused on, getting my body back to 100% health, and then getting back to training and going from there.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned that walkout song, No Easy Way Out from Rocky IV, great song. But I always love talking about the walkout because I feel like the walkout, it might be the biggest fight before the fight. Yeah, there's the weight cut. Yeah, there's everything. But when you walk out, especially on the platform that you're at with Bellator, there's a huge crowd. There's loud noises. You might be getting booed. You might be getting cheered. You don't know what you're going to walk out to every time. And so I feel like the walkout's really the first battle in the war. And so I know you said that for that last fight, that was the song that you chose because it fit the camp. What do you normally look for on your walkout? And is it typically going to just fit the camp? Or like, what's your thought process behind that?
No, typically there's always like a song. There's always a song that pops up that's kind of like that I'm like, yeah, this is the one. Or like a song I've been vibing with a lot during that time, a song I've been listening to a lot during training. And then I kind of like that'll be like the focus of what my walkout will be. So, the time before that it was a Thomas Rhett song because I was just constantly listening to that during the camp. And then this song was more like themed towards the camp. But as far as just walking out itself, that's the time where you get to really soak everything in. Before being in the cage, before actually engaging in combat with another man, that soaking in the crowd, soaking in the boos, soaking in the cheers, soaking in the faces around you. When you kind of when you walk out and you see everything and you're in your own body, it's not like an out of body experience. Sometimes people get so nervous and a lot of adrenaline goes through them that it's almost like they're less within themselves. So I take the time there when I'm walking out to focus on that, see the crowd, hear the crowd, see the faces around me, understand what I'm doing, and just really be there in the moment.
Absolutely. And so in the moment that is, and so in that moment that you step into the cage, what's typically going through your head?
That's kind of where the everything clicks, everything switches. In the back, the morning of, you're kind of nervous, you're a little fearful. There's always that. There's just the snowball's chance in hell for anybody. Even if you're way more skilled, you're way technically better. There's always a chance for everybody. So those nerves start to build. But then once you get closer, for me at least, once I get closer and I make that walkout and then I'm in the cage, then like that primal instinct turns and I have to hunt somebody. I have to feed my family. I have to, I have to go to war. I have to possibly kill and, maybe even get struck down myself. But it has to be like a war mentality because you have to put yourself in the most serious type of mentality when it comes to that. It's not a game. People get hurt in there. And so just getting serious and turning that switch into like a primal switch. That's what it is for me.
Absolutely. And so in the build up to that, we mentioned kind of like, it's all a war and it's each battle. But what are your keys to success, from the start of camp to the weight cut, to the walkout, to actually getting in there and succeeding? What do you think are your main keys and the things that you really focus on to make sure you're in that right mental mindset when you get into the cage?
I mean, the biggest thing during any camp should be like how well you're recovering, how well, that process is going, because like they say, the training camp is probably the hardest part. That's where you're taking the most wear and tear on your body. You're sparring a bunch of rounds, you only have 3 rounds the night of, but you're doing multiple rounds, leading up 8 weeks. So just making sure your body is fully recovered, it's healthy, it's limber, it's strong. There's not many injuries. It's hard to avoid during camps. Everyone always goes into the cage with something, but just keeping your body recovered and at its peak physical condition. Sometimes if you go into that weight cut week with any sort of problems, the weight cut will be harder, your mentality will be different. So just dial in that part of the camp, where you're really putting your body, your mind first, mental recovery, physical recovery, all of it. That's probably the biggest part of camp, which I could actually learn from myself.
For sure. And it's that consistent growth. Every day is a new day and you're always going to keep getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Consistency is key.
For sure. And so, we're starting to get this message. Okay, so we got 10 minutes. So let's start wrapping this up and get to the nitty gritty. My one real question I have for you. I know that, your dad has a lot of mixed backgrounds. You have a lot of mixed backgrounds. What is your favorite background to train? And then on the other side, what do you think is the most essential part to train?
Yeah, my favorite is the wrestling. My favorite is the wrestling, and for sure, I kind of like fell in love with it. I obsessed over it. I met a lot of people along the way, like Kyle Krushmer and Nick Piccinini, Jacoby Smith. Those guys are all D1 Oklahoma State All-Americans. So meeting them and even before them, I was already obsessed over it. But with them, it kind of took me to another level as far as the wrestling goes. So yeah, I think that's my answer to both questions. Actually, I think the wrestling is my favorite part to train, and then also one of the most important parts in MMA. A wrestler can dictate where the fight goes. If he doesn't want to get taken down, he's got great high level wrestling defense. If he wants to get the fight to the ground, he can get the fight to the ground. And also, I wouldn't, as much as I love jiu-jitsu, and that's been a part of me my whole life, and that was my first sport. It's not as optimal to fight off your back in MMA. You see a lot of jiu-jitsu guys opt to pull guard and fight from there, but in MMA, it's not very optimal. So using the wrestling to use your top side grappling, if you can wrestle and grapple at a high level, it's a very dangerous combination because you get someone to the ground and then that top side grappling, if you know what you're doing there, it's very hard to deal with.
Absolutely. And then, so for you, I know you're young, your career's still early, but if you could go back and tell a younger version of yourself some advice, what would you give to yourself as that advice?
Yeah, I've always thought about that. I'd make sure I was a little more disciplined. I'd go back to like my high school years, middle school years, and I'd tell myself to get my ass in the gym. There's a couple times, things just kind of change. You get a little focus on your friendships and your crushes at the time or your girlfriends or whatever, and then like you kind of start to lose a little bit of that focus. Not saying I lost complete focus. I still trained quite a bit, and I still made that a top priority in my life, but I'd tell myself to buckle down even more and just keep my ass in the gym. But it's hard to think about the past. I am where I am, and I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing and get better from here. I
Absolutely.
have
So
much
what's
more
the
time ahead of me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk over you.
Said I have much more time ahead of me, my man.
Oh yeah. And so what's that long-term vision? What's the vision you got for yourself?
The long-term vision is to build kind of a legacy with my dad and my brother. Build something great with them. Obviously in my heart, deep down, I want to be a world champion. That's what I want to do. That's why I'm in the sport. I want to be the best. I want to stand on top, and I want to know that when I did it, I was the best to do it. So that's obviously the biggest goal, is to be a world champion, but to also build something with my brother and my dad that kind of succeeds the sport in a way for us personally. Build build a life that I can live and enjoy happily and healthy.
Absolutely. A little legacy left behind. So I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit here, but maybe companies have a vision statement. What's your legacy statement for the Anderson family?
Just to show, that that we did it the best, that I kind of want to prove with myself and my own body what my dad has always wanted from us. Like he has all these visions of what a true martial artist should be, and we've always talked about it our whole life, building a martial arts compound, building these things that that will only make us better as martial artists. And so if I can be like what those what we talk about, if I can be that athlete, be that martial artist in the cage eventually, that's like the biggest thing, is to prove that everything we talked about, everything we worked on together, it went into this, it went into this body, it went into this practice, and it became something great, and building that martial arts legacy outside of that. It's an endless journey from when you're a baby, toddler. There's always martial arts lessons to apply, whether you're in the gym or you're not. So until the day I die, I'm a martial artist.
Absolutely. I love that. So my last question for you today, do you have a message for the people, anybody that you want to shout out before we wrap this up?
I had like my first sort of like fan engagement after that Bellator fight. A lot of people reaching out to me talking about anime and manga and different things to watch and different things to read. And that's a big thing for me, having that support and knowing that people are watching and they're getting that engagement. They're becoming a fan, and it's huge. It's huge. That's why you train as hard as you do. If you slack in the training, then you're doing a disservice to the people that support you. So, having that support, having those fans, I just appreciate each and every one of them and each and every person that reached out to me and showed me some love that night.
Absolutely. Well, Laird, it was an absolute pleasure talking to you. Remember, everybody watching at home, follow him on Instagram, Laird Anderson with 2 N's. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what you can do the rest of your career. A long way ahead, and I'm really excited to see when you get back in that cage next.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Hope to talk
Absolutely.
again soon.
Absolutely. Definitely would love to. Thank you again so much for your time. Everybody, if you made it this far, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Laird, I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Dude, thank you.
Thank you.